I am personally excited to introduce you to our afternoon host. Real excited. She's taking some time out of her busy schedule to be with us, to bring us home down this final stretch for today. And so she's a multi-Emmy Award winning journalist who currently hosts Lawmakers, and Beyond the Dome of Georgia, part of the Public Broadcasting Television. And so please give a warm Hope Global Forum's welcome to Donna Lowry. Let's give it that love.
Thank you, Lance. I'm excited to be here. How are all of you? You feeling good? Like got some energy? All right, because you're in for a great afternoon. I'm excited to be here, and I'm really looking forward to the great conversations. I was here yesterday, and they were wonderful. A lot of them stuck with me, as I'm sure they have with you. It is my pleasure to introduce the people who are going to lead us through the next segment. It is time for us to get right to it. From Operation Hope, the founder and CEO, John Hope Bryant. From Breakfast Club, the co-host and host of Way Up with Angela Yee, the one and only Angela Yee. And the 27th Administrator of the Small Business Administration, the Honorable Isabella Guzman.
All right, how's everybody feeling today? Well, I'm really excited to be hosting this panel in particular as a small business owner myself. So selfishly, I'm trying to make sure I get some of this information as well. And so I just want to thank you both for having me here. Honored. And you guys have been touring the country, highlighting the partnership between Operation Hope and the SBA to create and grow 1 million Black businesses. That's a big deal. Can you guys share a little bit about what's going on with that?
I will, but before I do that, I always want to remind people that she's very humble, she's very easygoing other than her Secret Service protection outside. But I want you to let you know, this is the President's cabinet member for small business in the largest economy in the world. America's a $22 trillion a year GDP economy. We're the largest economy in the world. We're the leader of the free world because of our economy. Most of that economy is driven by small business. Most people work for a small business. There are only 1,000 companies that employ more than 10,000 people or more. Everybody else is a small business. 99% of the LA economy is small businesses, 100 employees or less, and that's one of the 10 largest economies in the world. And sitting in front of you right now is the President's cabinet member. She meets with the President on a regular basis in the cabinet room, and she is the official voice. This beautiful, amazing, brilliant Latina and other races and mixed up lady, she's like the United Nations of inclusion, is the voice for small business in the world. We're honored to have her here.
Thank you, John. That's great.
And she's pretty cool. She and I have been touring the country, as you know, on this 1MBB initiative, which started out after George Floyd was murdered, Rainbows After Storms, as an initiative with Shopify to create 1 million new Black businesses. On this stage 2 years ago, we announced that they were committing $130 million over 10 years. And I don't want to spoil the press release. I think it's coming out tomorrow, so Lance told me to shut up. There's a big press release about 1MBB and our results thus far, but I think you'll be very heartened by our progress to date. Many companies, mayors, cities have come on board since that initial announcement. All I can tell you is we have results. And then we signed an agreement with the U.S. Small Business Administration that covers 1MBB and financial literacy for all. And the administrator invited me to join her tour bus. So I sort of feel like I'm you a little, Angela. I get to tour the country, and I'm not, By the way, do you know she is the first Black female national radio program, syndicated program in the country? Her deal with iHeart, which kicks off, of course, you know her from the Breakfast Club, but it kicks off in 2023 with her own show, right?
Listen, John Hope Bryant is a great host, and, and he is definitely giving us our props today. But yes, January 17th, and then it'll be nationwide starting January 30th.
And yes. And
But look, I'm so happy to be here in this room with you guys, and of course with SBA Administrator Guzman and John Hope Bryant, who's like a mentor to me also.
She's also a small business owner, and she also owns real estate. So she is right brain and left brain, and she makes money during the day and builds wealth at night. And that is the spirit of 1MBB, is building wealth. The color is green. Mm-hmm. So I pretty much said everything I've got. I'm going to shut up.
Yeah, no. And Administrator Guzman, I want to, talk to you about this because for myself, going to my local SBS office, I learned about a lot of services locally that's available. But I would love for you to talk about the SBA and services available to women and minority business owners that people might not even know about.
Well, thanks so much for having me, first off. This is exciting to be in person. I think it was virtual last year,
right.
so this is great. How many small business owners do we have in the room today?
Oh, wow.
We have a lot. All
Wow.
right. Well, then hopefully you all know that SBA is about delivering the American dream of business ownership, which was why it was so important that we joined Operation Hope and Chairman John Hope Bryant on this initiative as we're seeing the trends. Those small businesses that are starting up, there have been 9.1 million since the president took office, 70% higher than any similar period. Those small business owners are increasingly women and people of color. In fact, for the last 10 years, it's been black women and brown women who have been leading on startup rates.
That's right. And Administrator, also, isn't it true that since the pandemic, there's one, you correct me if I'm wrong here, that most small business startups since the pandemic at any time since 2004, and the group leading the small business startups were African Americans, and the group within that group were black women.
Yes, so 9.1 million that I referenced since the president took office, there were higher rates of entrepreneurship in zip codes across the country that are dominantly African American. And so that just further demonstrates the trends. And so when we're talking about entrepreneurship, which creates competition in this economy, which creates innovation. They're the ones who deliver the products and services that we all love or become addicted to. But those entrepreneurs are key to our economy. And so if we're looking at the future and the future of 1 million black businesses, we want to make sure that they're resilient, because that's the key. Having the acumen to be successful, to deliver great outcomes. And really what we're here doing is making sure that we can replicate those successes and grow communities. We're in Atlanta, so it's not just about making sure that we can replicate neighborhoods of successful main streets, but it's also making sure that those successful communities of main streets can then open up to markets around the world. And e-commerce helps you do that. So that ability to digitize. And so we're very excited at SBA to be joining, especially because we do have incredible resources to help entrepreneurs be successful. We provide funding to small businesses through investments and loans, and we even have some grants for those who are trying to export or who are in innovative science or technology fields. We have incredible resources to help build your technical expertise. We know small business owners wear many hats. And then we also have resources for market opportunities, because it's about revenue. It's that, the balance sheet is really critical. You study that every day, and it's also about the revenues that you can bring in for your company. And so there have been, there's one woman out in Colorado, Pathfinder Systems, that has used every single product at the SBA. That's hard to do, but really the challenge is to go to SBA.gov and figure out all the products that you could take advantage of in your journey as a small business owner and revisit time and again. There's a successful coffee company out in San Francisco who gave me the biggest compliment that even though she's, has multiple locations all around the Bay Area and great distribution nationally, she comes to my website every once in a while just to check out what's new and what she could do to improve her business. And that's what it is. It's constant learning, and so that we can replicate great successes like Cleo Barger, who's with Mid-State Aerospace. This was like the first African-American woman in aerospace manufacturing who used SBA's 8A program to grow her business and just recently got a STEP grant to go sell abroad and closed a multi-million-dollar deal in Germany. You know, those are the women that we want to replicate. Or Tasha Cave, who's out in the Bay Area, who got one of those innovation research grants. She's an engineer figuring out how to recycle carbon dioxide in her company 12. So there's incredible stories of Black entrepreneurship that we want to be successful. It's imperative for our success as an economy.
And we're talking about some real life stories. Let's talk about Chairman John Hope Bryant and Operation Hope, because
Isn't the weather nice outside?
due to an SBA 7J
Oh,
grant,
that's right.
you actually were able to, get Operation Hope going. So can you talk about that story? Because I love real life success stories.
Yeah, I'm glad it was about Operation Hope, not about me. So yes, actually, it is a little known fact that Operation Hope was actually started in 1992, May 5th, 1992, 5 days after the Rodney King riots, with a $61,000 7J grant from the U.S. Small Business Administration. And you may not find that a significant fact, but it's everything. I mean, we're a $50 million a year budget today. We've got between $3.5 and $4 billion of capital we put out to communities. You hear all the stats and the facts that may glaze over on you. It doesn't glaze over on me because this is like, how old is your child, or did a teeth fall out today, or did they get an A in class, or when did they buy a home for the first time? When you're talking about your family and your own net worth, this is my baby. And my baby's growing up, and my baby's having a positive effect on the world, I hope, and this is how I keep track. But when you start getting big, I guess people start taking it for granted, and I don't. Because I remember when I went to Tom Bradley, Mayor Tom Bradley, the city of LA, if you don't know that name, it's because he was pre-internet, and I'm joking, but I'm serious. No one knows that he was mayor of LA for 20 years, first black mayor of a major city for 20 years in Los Angeles. And
Now we have our second, Mayor Karen Bass.
Oh, that Mayor Karen Bass, that's right. I thought about that, yeah. That's right. Well, I meant the mayor for 20 years. I'm like, who's that? No. Mayor Karen Bass, who's fantastic, by the way, and a dear friend of our work. First female black mayor of LA. But Tom Bradley, when I was 26 years old, he had no real attention. He had no reason to pay attention to me. I wasn't a donor. I wasn't an operative. He just saw potential in me. And he called then President George H.W. Bush. So listen to me now. You want to know why I'm bipartisan? A Democratic mayor in LA called a Republican president in Washington on his way out of office and said, I met a young man who's got some potential. Will you help him out? I was 26 years old with a business plan and a dream. And our outgoing president said, I don't have a lot. The cupboards are bare. We're leaving the administration. But I think we can help him out literally he said, I think we have $61,000 left over. He did some research at the SBA. Will that help him? I said yes. If you're an entrepreneur, always say yes. Just say yes and work it out later. And I said yes, Angela. And that grant was the founding of this mission. And I had a logo. It said, empowering, I think I said, eradicating poverty in the world. $61,000 budget.
Yeah. Had to start somewhere.
Had to start somewhere. But it all started there, and I had backing and I had support, so my bipartisan bones, I guess you want to say, came from that experience, and they didn't ask anything from me other than I reported on my results and honored the grant request and was honest about that, which to this day, we have audited financials. And I just started putting results on the board really quickly. I got out of I couldn't compete with the PhDs. They were all around me. So I had to become a PhD.
I like that one.
So literally, I mean, this is the business. Everybody was going this way. All the political meetings were happening. All the ecumenical leaders were meeting. I couldn't get in those meetings. I was not an operative. I didn't want to be in the meeting anyway. I wanted to help the pharmacist on the corner whose pharmacy had burned down. So while they were meeting, I went to 43rd and Western, I think it was, and his handler's pharmacy. His pharmacy had burned down, and I asked him, could we rebuild them? He said yes, and I got some bankers together, and they put up a little bit of money each. I think it was $10,000 each, and we did a $100,000 loan to rebuild that pharmacy, and that was the first rebuilding of anything after the Rodney King riots, and that put us on the map.
That's great.
And that's really been our signature ever since. It's been results, doing things, taking action, and I built on that success, and then used that grant to go get a city grant, then I got some money from Wells Fargo, and got some money from another bank, and after a while, people were like, well, if they trust them, we'll trust them, and I just always made sure I kept my word, paid back my loans, honored my requests, but it started with her. Well, started with the SBA.
Wow. Listen, and there's so many ways I want to go with this conversation right now, but since you talked about getting access to grants and loans and, of course, paying back those loans, a lot of times people feel like when you have a small business, you put all your own money into it. I know I'm guilty of that. Sometimes people are emptying out their savings, their 401ks, all of that. So can you talk about other ways that people can access capital so they don't have to do that?
Well, capital is king, especially when you're trying to grow your businesses. You need that capital to carry you through, even with the golden ticket of a contract. The federal government, as an example, you need to try to find the capital to deliver against that contract. And so that's the biggest challenge. The SBA was created to try to de-risk capital markets so that our lending partners would be more likely to be able to provide capital to those who could not access capital, those small businesses that we need to be able to create jobs, because they create 2/3 of all net new jobs. So with our capital programs, obviously majority is about loans. People have to put, of course, their own finances up to often start the businesses. I met earlier with the restaurant owner who started their business by emptying their bank account. I've met other people who have sold their cars. One of the small businesses I met today sold assets that he had to start his business. So that's, oftentimes people get creative of how they can raise money by selling off what they have to be able to start the business. There's less grants available on a typical basis for small businesses than there have been during the pandemic relief. It is a lot about loans, but there's also investment capital. At the SBA, we're trying to take the lessons learned from PPP and the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, where we reached more businesses than ever before, including sole proprietors and the smallest of the small during the Biden-Harris administration, to try to open up capital.
I just have to say this. You know what really upsets me? You guys basically gave away money for 2 years.
$1.2 trillion in relief from
The
the SBA.
PPP money, you didn't have to pay it back if you met certain criteria,
Right.
if you used it for payroll. I used to have friends call me like, should I get this loan? It's 1% interest rate. I'm like, what?
The COVID idol.
What bank's giving you 1%? What? Oh, and you don't have payments for
It started off with 12 months, but we went up to 18.
no payments for 12 to 18 months. So you don't have to pay a lot of it back if you did certain criteria. I mean, I just have people negotiating with themselves like, well, I'm not quite sure I want this once in a lifetime capital for my business. Let me think, who else is gonna give me money?
But it was hard for some people to get that did apply for it also, that should have gotten it too.
Look, I mean, I think this is the reality, is that the capital is, although we were created to try to help fill those gaps, there are still barriers that exist.
Yeah.
And so the lessons learned from PPP and EIDL, where many businesses were not able to access the capital, is that we need to broaden our distribution networks, attract more lenders in to better meet you all where you are. in your businesses every day working hard, as well as to make sure that the programs are more simple. Things like eligibility or how you underwrite the loan are easier for lenders to try to access these guarantees, and so that it can make capital more affordable to you. So we are in the process of transforming our programs at the SBA to better serve our small businesses, but it is about loans, it's about investments. We have small business investment companies around the country that provide both debt and equity. It's really about, though, beyond all that, there are products out there available. There are some local grants still available thanks to the American Rescue Plan in various cities or states around the country. But what the reality is, what is your business ready for? What is your revenue projection? What is your ability to repay a loan versus your need for investment because you're starting a business that's going to require patient capital, time to build up your revenues. And I think that's what is powerful about the SBA as well, is that we have a network of 68 district offices, over 1,600 partners on the ground to help our small businesses better navigate those capital decisions and come to a decision based on your business's readiness to be able to get capital or to connect you with the right resources to get you financial ready. And I think that, though, the great disparity that still exists needs to be addressed because, especially our Black-owned small businesses are more likely to go online than to go to a lender, a bank, and that's Federal Reserve study. And so what kind of product are they getting? We want to be able to expand our distribution and simplify our products and get online through technology at the SBA to make sure that we can attract those businesses and connect them to affordable capital. And I think even during PPP, Black-owned businesses were 5 times less likely to be able to get fully their request around PPP or get PPP at all. And so clearly the disparities, that's what the Biden-Harris administration is about addressing. We want to make sure that we can reverse those trends and invest in the very entrepreneurial community of Black businesses and all of our underserved communities that need that extra assistance to get the investment that they need and to create the jobs. So I think it's about transformation, but it's also about making sure you're aware of the financial basics of running your business and letting us help you do that.
So the SBA, I think, Angela, is for small business, for this community, I think is the best one-stop shop. If you have a mature idea or a mature plan, it is the best place to go. Unfortunately, on that first rung, they're going to be coming to you and me for a loan. This is Pookie and them coming to us for, can you hook us up? That's just the reality in most people's lives. It's fine for small amounts of capital. Then credit cards. I say you shouldn't use credit cards most of the time, but if you're going to use it, at least use it for something that may produce income or wealth for yourself. But here's the real magic piece, and this is where the financial coaching comes in that Operation Hope does. You can go, if you did this PPP application or idea, you got to tell me if I'm mistaken here, one or both of these applications, if you got declined but knew what to ask for, you still got a $10,000 grant for applying.
COVID EIDL up to $10,000.
Up to $10,000, so you could apply, be declined. If you knew to ask for it, you still got a $10,000 grant, which you didn't have to pay back.
Right.
All you had to do is come to a financial coach, we would have got you that. Earned income tax credit. You make less than $60,000 a year, which is somebody in our family makes less than $60,000 a year. You got 3 children. You make $35,000 a year. Federal government owes you $6,700. If you've never filed, it's retroactive for 3 years. Help me with the math. 18 grand? 18 grand, give or take? Then you have, during the pandemic, it was a child tax credit, $3,000 per child. So that's $9,000 cash. So that's $30,000, give or take, without the EIDL grant. That could have been used as some seed capital for a business to get you to a point where you have a proper business plan, have a proper business structure, so that you can then go and try to get some counseling from an SBA office and get that step-up grant, loan that the SBA has available. You may not be able to get everything you want from one source. You may have to sort of ladder it together.
And know that the SBA has a micro-lending program and a mission-driven community advantage loan program that focuses on loans $350,000 and under. Those programs are also entry points to the SBA. but we need to do a better job of distributing it and getting it out there in the community, which is why we've tried to partner historically across the board with more organizations, and why the president funded through American Rescue Plan the Community Navigator program that provided over 500 institutions with support to better build bridges to underserved communities, including women and people of color.
And for myself, I want to talk about this too with Operation Hope and the SBA. I know a lot of times with these small businesses, and we have a statistic, 93% of all Black-owned businesses have no employees, and a lot of them have very few employees. And so what I wanted to ask you both, let's just say you start a business, you have an idea, and you just jump in, start a business. I know earlier you were talking about you had a business plan, and it was great, but some people don't even do that. Some people don't do operating agreements, and they don't have those things in place. They just open a business and say they're paying people cash because they don't want to go through the whole system. Yeah. How can Operation Hope and the SBA help you structure your business? Because you can always go back and correct things, but sometimes people are nervous because they know they've been doing things off the books, under the table, and they want to figure out how can I get my business to be legitimate the way that it needs to be without getting in trouble.
Well, I mean, that's about building a resilient business, is starting as soon as possible, whatever stage your business is in, and getting the advice to, to make your business more legitimate in the eyes of the financial institutions, because that can get you the capital you need to add those employees. I mean, I think it's about having the growth mindset of entrepreneurship. If you want to be able to replicate yourself in the business so that you can do more work and serve more customers and get more products out the door, your goal should be to create an employee-based business. And so, unfortunately, you need capital to grow and add employees. You need the revenue growth potential to grow your business and add employees. And so that's why making sure that you have the resources and the team on your side through free resources available through Operation Hope or through SBA or other local organizations that you partner with, so that you can figure out how to grow your revenues and add those employees on to grow your business, to really build wealth in your community and for yourself.
Adding on to that, Angela, and I can say things that the administrator can't say. I'd rather owe anybody on the planet, including the mafia, which I've never owed them a dime, I'm make it clear, but I'd rather owe anybody on the planet money other than the IRS. The IRS is gangster. My accountant showed me if you borrow money from the IRS, it compounds at this incredible rate. And if you say, oh, well, I'm gonna not do my tax returns, and then you do it 6-8 years later, and the catch up on that is unbelievable. Keep in mind, they didn't get Al Capone for murder and mayhem. They got Al Capone for tax evasion. And so I don't want to mess with the IRS. I don't want to mess with all that scam. I love what Pinky Cole did, who was on this stage last year judging Slutty Vegan. She gave every college student that she did a commencement speech, I think it was Clark Atlanta, yep, where I'm on the board. She gave everyone an LLC, limited liability corporation, at graduation. You want to help somebody at Christmas? Give them an LLC. That's what you do. It costs $100 or something like that, yep, or less to start. It's a very simple process. It's a way to structure your idea. Operation Hope will help you with the business plan for free 99. Mm-hmm. Free 99. This was going right over your head. Free 99. It's no cost. We'll give you a business plan. We'll help you get your credit score together. We'll help you get prepared. We'll get you a business advisor. All that for free, and then we'll turn you over to the SBA, and they will augment around the financial modeling. She's already told you about that. I think those 3 steps will get you off on the right track. Don't try to outsmart somebody who's looking for people trying to outsmart. The federal government's been set up for a long time, the IRS trying to find people cheat. Just pay the money. Just pay. I love paying taxes. It means I'm making money.
Right. The more you pay, I guess the more you made. Well, for some people.
Fair enough. Wait a minute, so I saw Angela look at me. She's like, I sort of agree with you, but not really.
Yeah, some people are still not paying anything and making a lot. But what I did, since we're talking about minority and women-owned businesses, I also want to talk about government contracts and how important that is when it comes to creating wealth.
Well, I mean, the federal government is the largest buyer in the world, $560 billion opportunity for our small businesses to go after and compete for awards. And the president recognizes that the power of the federal purse is powerful to achieve the economy that he wants, one that's accessible to all, where opportunity is available to each of us. And building an economy from the bottom up and the middle out, I think, really does center around helping small businesses. It's why the president announced at the Tulsa Race Massacre commemoration that he was going to drive this federal spending to small disadvantaged businesses, in particular, raising the goal from 10% to 15% by 2025, which is $50 billion worth of contracts. Yes. And while we've achieved our goals in small business contracting every year, there's great disparity. And so for the first time ever under the Biden-Harris administration leadership, the SBA released disaggregated data on contracting, showing that only 1.78% of contracts go to Black-owned businesses, for example. And so that great disparity is what we're trying to address in the federal government, and why President Biden signed an equity executive order on day one, because we know, back to the foundation of the SBA 70 years ago in the Eisenhower administration, that small businesses create competition. They create innovation. We need them, and we need an industrial policy that ensures that small businesses can survive, and it has to start with the federal spend. And so I encourage small businesses to look into federal contracting through the SBA. That's our expertise, is trying to ensure that the agencies set aside contracts for small businesses as we're making changes to make it easier for you. And so definitely look at that as a revenue growth opportunity for your business, no matter what you sell, because the federal government buys everything from military supplies to flowers, you name it, we buy it. And so there's endless opportunity for a stable base of revenue for you and your business and the growth into the future. And I gave the example of Cleo Barger earlier. There are tons of success stories around the country of businesses leveraging our programs at the SBA to get into government contracting, to grow their businesses, and we want to replicate those successes.
All right. Oh, I was going to let you close out, John.
Oh, no, I think you guys should close it out with really a word to women about how they can role model your success. I want to just say two things. One was about capital access. I forgot to tell you that one of the success stories that pitched, she's a candle maker through Shopify and 1MBB. Shopify through 1MBB will give you a credit line against your sales. I forgot to tell you, this is access to capital. Please remember this. If you sign up to 1MBB, you open up your website, you open up your payment systems, you make a sale to Angela Yee. You're able then to take that invoice to Angela Yee and finance it against your next sale. Then you take 3 invoices back to Shopify, and they'll finance those 3 invoices against your next sale. And she's able to ramp up a 6-figure business in 8 months based on Shopify internal line of credit, which means you didn't have to go to get a traditional bank qualification. None of that stuff we talked about. You didn't have to come borrow money from me or Angela. And it gets to a point where you can come then and apply for the SBA. So I want you to be encouraged and know that there are options for you. The second thing I want to say is I intentionally say things sometimes that many people in this audience or streaming around the world don't want to hear, but you have to hear it. Why? Because 96% of black businesses not having an employee in the biggest economy on the planet in 2022 tells you that something's wrong with our business plan. Did you hear me?
Yep.
96% of all black businesses not having an employee, and most of us having very little revenue, tells us that there's nothing wrong with our hustle, nothing's wrong with our talent, nothing's wrong with our gifts. We define hustle. So it has to be something other than that. It is business administration, it is business management, it's books and records. People say, John, how do you do it? I take the time to do all the boring stuff that nobody wants to do, and I get my records right so that when somebody wants to wire me money, they can. I know you don't want to hear it, But if you want to know how we built this behemoth, is when you go online, you can pull up my financials. They're audited. You don't take my word for anything. You know they're clean, they're honest, they're transparent. We have all the systems in place. So you're not going to tell me no on merit. You can say you don't like my socks. You can say you don't like my personality. But you're not going to say you don't like how I run a business. Let's get that right so that no one can deny us on merit. And as I recede to these two beautiful ladies, and I so much respect for these two ladies. They both have incredible humility. I'm sure Angela will allow me to give the final compliment to the administrator. Before we came out here, she requested that before she comes out, she wanted to meet with the business success stories. It wasn't on her schedule. That came out and pitched before you. She wanted to hear their stories. She wanted to understand what they were doing. She wanted to see how she could help them. She spent 20 to 30 minutes just meeting with them, no VIPs, just them, made them VIPs, because she remembers what she was like as a young girl when no one gave her visibility, no one gave her time. She's the most traveled cabinet member in the Biden cabinet because she wants to show up and show she cares.
And I'm so glad we're best friends now and that we have one. No, but I do want to close it out by saying that the reason I actually asked to moderate this panel was because as a small business owner, I know that sometimes it's hard for us to ask for help when we need it. A lot of times we feel like we have to do everything on our own. We feel like we're not getting the support that we need, but it is out there and it is important. You know, John Hope Bryant, he'll start a conversation with me saying, I know you're not going to like to hear this, and we need that. We need people that know more than we do, and we need mentors, and we need to know that we do have access to get help, to get grants, to get help from the SBA. I've gone and taken classes at my small business services in New York City to actually get certified from my MWBE, and I'm always exploring ways on how I can make sure my business is successful. A lot of times things don't happen the way that you want them to. Most of the time they don't. But that doesn't mean that you can't make it work. And so that's why I was excited to be here with this panel in particular.
Well, we are going to be best friends because I was going to say something very similar in that what we learned from PPP and COVID EIDL was that especially women tend not to ask for that help or be intimidated by taking that loan, even if it was a forgivable loan, even if it was a 1%, 30-year loan through the federal government. And I think that growing up in a small business with a father who had a chain of veterinary hospitals, having started several businesses myself and working with founders in a variety of industries, I think that the one thing that everyone recognizes is that what small businesses are great at is they have that grit, determination, can-do spirit, but their specialty is around that great idea they're giving to all of us, that product or that service. All the other hats that they have to wear in the financial space, the administrative space, they're learning. So there's never a question that is too small or too dumb that you shouldn't feel comfortable asking. And that's why the SBA has expanded its partner network so that you can work with organizations that you trust and that can be your gateway to the SBA. Because we want to make sure that we arm you with all the success factors. We recognize, especially in underserved communities and as people of color, that we may not have sat around that kitchen table talking about business financial issues. And so, let us help you expand and grow so that you can deliver what America needs. And that's growth in our small businesses, the 33 million strong across the nation, so that we can have a globally competitive economy, one that really truly works for each of us and our families. That's how we achieve the American dream of business ownership for more Americans. So thank you all for the leadership that you show every day.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please say thank you to Angela Yee and Administrator Guzman.